And welcome back to Daleks Aren't Robots. I am not at all a lizard man. Don't believe the rumors, Josh. And I am here with my friends. We have Kari.
Hello.
We have Zach.
Yo.
And we have returning Justin.
Also not a lizard man.
No, I don't think any of us are lizard men.
Definitely not.
We have a cat and possibly an owl, but no lizard men.
Why would you say that I'm a cat? I'm not a cat.
You might be the owl.
Definitely not an owl.
Okay. As always, Zach and I are familiar with Doctor Who. Kari and Justin are distinctly less familiar with Doctor Who, and we're working to get them more familiar with Doctor Who. And this time, we've jumped back to the 1970s as we take a look at the Silurians, also known as Doctor Who and the Silurians, which we'll get into later. Justin, would you care to honor us with a recap?
All right. Well, there's a nuclear power plant or something that is inadvertently tapping into a lizard man facility, or there was some exchange, as I recall, going on. Anyway, they find lizard men.
They find lizard men, yeah.
They find dinosaurs.
Yes.
These lizard men can project a field that makes people regress because of fear or something.
Yeah, that's about right.
It looks like scanners. It goes, wee!
Yeah. So a couple of guys, they get so terrified that they regress to cavemen, even though they don't talk about fire at all. They just kind of scroll.
No.
That's not a caveman. That's not what Doctor Who has told me as a caveman.
Distinct lack of fire politics.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Anyway, the Doctor goes in, finds out about the lizard men, who are called Silurians.
Yes.
He actually talks to them, kind of tries to act as a mediator, since he's not human, between the Silurians and the humans. Since the Silurians are actually apparently natives to Earth. They were just here first.
Yeah.
So there's some interesting, weird, especially with Britain, the weird indigenous versus, colonizers thing, which surprisingly, at least to me, it painted the scientists kind of in the wrong and the Doctor in the right for trying to find a way, a way to reconcile.
The story definitely seems to want the Silurians and the humans to get along, even if
I'm just saying they could have easily just made the Silurians monsters.
Yes,
but they actually took the pains to show that there are some Silurians who are idiots, who are the equivalent of unit.
Yeah.
And that they shoot first and ask questions never.
It really reminded me of the Sensorites in that way.
Yeah, there's kind of a Sensorite vibe.
There are also Silurians who are reasonable.
Yes.
One.
Maybe we shouldn't live here. Maybe we should go live, somewhere else and all that.
We should talk, though, about what Silurian who is not reasonable does.
I don't remember.
He lets loose a disease.
Oh, yeah. There was a plague plotline.
Plague, but not the plague.
No.
Yeah, that happens for a couple of episodes.
Yeah. Anyway, it ends with an explosion because
it does.
Unit blows up the Silurian base.
Yes, it does. And Kari, I see you already want to jump into that, so let's do so. Let's talk about the ending where
genocide.
Yeah.
He commits genocide. Okay, so LBS commits genocide by blowing up the Silurian compound and sealing the door shut. And the Doctor and Liz are both sad. And I'm questioning my life choices because I'm watching a children's show that just showed the good guys genociding some lizard people. And I'm sad and I'm angry because we just watched the Sensorites again, but with a really depressing ending. That is the good guys genociding some people with no consequences shown, and they discuss it, but it's two sentences.
Yeah, the British military genocides an indigenous population.
Yeah.
Not a great look.
The United Nations military.
It's extremely 70s.
Yeah.
It's like it understands that bad things happen and it wants to show it, but it doesn't get to the next step.
But it doesn't want to deal with it.
Yeah, because it was at the very end.
You might see why the United Nations maybe didn't want their name in the new series associated with units.
And I assume that whatever the next serial is doesn't reference this at all.
Well, it does lightly reference it. The Doctor is a little put off with the Brigadier.
A little put off? He just...
Doctor, we need you to go down. I am not talking to you, Brigadier. Your genocide has really put me off of you right now. I'm very peeved.
Why is he still working for these people? I mean, yeah, they have the TARDIS, but he could just fuck off to France or something.
By this point in this show, the Doctor is also not alien to genocide.
Yeah, but still, he was obviously put off by it. He was obviously not happy.
Does he at least stop working with UNIT after this?
No.
Why isn't LBS in the dock for fucking war crimes?
Zach, why don't you get into some of the backstory of how that ending goes? Because this was not the original ending.
I first have to get into the fact that there was really no producer, and even the script editor, Terrence Dix, wasn't even around.
Okay, so you remember
Yeah.
how back when we covered Spearhead from Space, we talked about how there were two producers who were working on this redux of the show who ended up leaving, and Barry Letts stepped in?
Yeah.
That transition happened about midway through pre-production of this serial. So there was a lot of chaos and no one was quite sure who was in charge of what yet. And that shows in the script, which underwent a few changes.
Okay, so no one's in charge, so let's genocide a bunch of people?
Originally in the script, first of all, there was more involved with the British government calling the brigadier and basically giving down orders. And second of all, he sealed the caves with the explosions.
Okay.
That seemingly by Barry Letts got changed.
And that would be totally reasonable because, like, let's seal this off until we figure out what we're going to do is not a bad response to this.
If we want to cast blame, and I do because I find that fun, yeah, Barry Letts seems to be the one who wanted to end it with murder.
I think we should also bring up at this point that Barry Letts got brought on as producer specifically with the remit to close the show out.
Yep, once again, we're playing our favorite game. How is the BBC trying to kill the show this week?
I need to start drinking.
No, don't drink every time the BBC almost cancels the show.
You'll be dead.
Okay, see, and that totally makes sense because that's what I thought that they were going to do.
Yeah, just seal it.
And in fact, listening to the dialogue leading up to the final exchange, that sounds like what he's doing.
They do say seal it off.
Yeah.
Dialogue.
We only know blow it up from the Doctor and Liz's dialogue.
And to be totally fair, they don't actually see anything done. They just see
No.
the smoke rising. So maybe LBS didn't actually genocide them. Maybe he did just literally seal off the cave.
Sadly, at no point in the show do they ever really address what LBS's intentions were.
Well, I can give him the benefit of the doubt there then, I guess.
Yeah.
Oh my God, because this would be really hard to watch if he literally just genocided a bunch of lizard people.
I have a theory. Maybe he just intended to cave them in, but unit being unit, they packed in way too many explosives.
That wouldn't surprise me either.
We also threw some missiles in there just in case. We just had them.
Hey guys, I found this crate of C4. You want to just throw it in
Yeah,
there?
we'll just toss it in there. Might as well.
Think you got enough dynamite there, Butch?
Oh my God.
Be careful with that nitroglycerin there.
Okay, that's what I'm gonna headcanon this as, because otherwise this show would be, I'm not gonna say unwatchable, but like...
It would be difficult.
I mean, also to be fair, the original script does also run a lot of parallels. People were trying to parallel things with the Silurians attempting genocide and then the humans. The whole episode is about parallels.
I get we're saying LBS for Lethbridge-Stewart, but it sounds like LDS, which is Latter-day Saints.
Totally different groups.
But somebody could be annoyed at us saying that LDS are genociding people.
I'm not saying that.
No, I know, but
No.
I could see how somebody
fine.
could hear it.
Okay, to clarify for people listening, we are not talking about the LDS. We're pretty sure the Latter-day Saints have not genocided recently.
Not any lizard people.
Not any lizard people at all.
We are recording this a couple of weeks in advance, so maybe in that time, but I'm going to take the benefit of the doubt. We're talking about a fictional British general.
Unit general. And from now on, so that it's clarified, I will just constantly refer to him as Brigadier Alistair Gordon Lethbridge-Stewart.
Thank you.
To...
Every
I
time.
won't. I'm just gonna keep going with LBS because he has like 47 names.
Lethbridge-Stewart has the same amount of syllables.
I can call him the Brigadier.
Briggy.
Yeah. Briggy.
We'll just call him Briggy.
It's like when people say LOL out loud, it really irritates me.
Okay, so no one is punished for their various war crimes.
No.
No.
With that out of the way, we should probably talk about our main characters. We have the Doctor.
You mean Doctor Who, as he is credited?
His name is Doctor Who. Like, I'm sorry,
That's what it
but I
says in
don't.
the credits. That's what I
I
gotta
don't
go
see
off
how
of.
you can avoid that at this point.
Before we get into the characters that are actually here, I guess we should mention the one character that doesn't show up in this serial.
The TARDIS?
Yeah, the TARDIS is
Where
not
the
to be
fuck
found.
is the TARDIS? I hope someone is feeding her and maybe she could eat Briggy.
This
is one of only 11 television stories that doesn't have the TARDIS in it.
Do not like. I miss the TARDIS.
Yeah, but we have Bessie.
Yeah, we did have the car. No, I like
Bessie
the
is
car.
cute and cool. She's really adorable. I like that she's yellow.
I wonder how many children he has to feed it to make it go.
Because it does start without him, like it just turns on.
I mean, I just assume that's Gallifreyan technology at this point.
I assume that the Doctor can turn anybody on if he wants to.
Maybe this is just me not knowing 70s automobiles, but there is a strange liquid that comes out the tailpipe before it starts.
He pours something.
Yeah.
Or something through it.
So clearly that is the blood of the TARDIS's previous victim.
Like maybe Bessie just is the TARDIS and he can like move her spirit around.
Okay.
I'm not sure, but I think at some point Bessie is inside the TARDIS. So
It's
Nice.
meta.
anyway, let's get on to the characters with dialogue. So let's start with the Doctor.
He has a lot of great moments.
Yeah.
He tries to convince both sides to not murder each other.
Mhm.
He also makes it clear that he's not a human, even though he totally is half human. He claims also to be several thousand years old, which I think he's totally lying about.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, a running gag throughout the show is that the Doctor lies about his age. He has been reportedly anywhere between 300 and 8,000 years old.
I think he's lying. At one point, he does hide information, and again, it comes back to bite him in the ass, which I kind of
Yeah.
liked. Also, he wears a spelunking ascot.
Yeah, he wears an
and it's
ascot
adorable.
when he's spelunking, which is very important.
Let's be real here. If you go spelunking and you're not wearing an ascot,
Yeah, where's your ascot?
Like,
You're
what are
doing
you
it
even
wrong.
doing?
I also want to say this has one of my favorite moments of the Doctor. At the end of, I think, episode 3, we get the big cliffhanger where the Silurian first appears and it looks like it's about to attack the Doctor. And at the start of the next episode, the Doctor responds by just reaching out a hand and going, "Hello, I'm the Doctor. Pleasure to meet you."
It was a good moment. The Silurian is like, what are you doing?
Well, to be fair, he's not waving a pitchfork or shooting, so you know.
Yeah, at that point, that is the nicest reaction anyone has had to that Silurian.
Yep.
So, should we move on to the character that we were thrashing around for war crimes?
He's just a dick in this one.
Yeah, he was particularly obtuse in this one.
I mean, he doesn't come off as a huge asshole in the other episode.
No, he was very uncompromising.
He's a stereotypical dumb
Yeah,
army guy.
Exactly.
Yeah, the Brigadier seems to take on the role of military might versus the Doctor's role of affectionate science, which is a classic B-grade sci-fi go-to.
Yeah.
And actually now prestige sci-fi, like with Arrival.
Yeah, it's kind of a stereotypical role.
His personality changes a bit depending on how sympathetic the writer is to UNIT and the military in general.
Mhm.
Those who are less willing to give credit to those organizations tend to paint the Brigadier a lot more.
Bellicose.
Yeah. What I find really funny, though, is that after a few years pass and this gets sort of the misty-eyed nostalgia view over it, the Brigadier goes from being what I consider an Amanda Waller type figure who's like somewhat no nonsense and willing to make really harsh decisions to like lovable Jim Gordon, who's just the morals compass of stuff.
He just genocided some lizard people.
I don't think Jim Gordon ever genocided any lizard people.
No, I don't
No.
think that happened.
You didn't read that comic?
This
Ugh. Liz gets some good moments in this
Liz
one.
does get some good moments.
Not as many as I would like, but like what there is of her is
and
good.
the episodes seem to not acknowledge that she's a scientist.
Well, it kind of does. She does some science stuff.
She looks through the microscope and identifies the cells as reptilian. Although, Zach, you read the novelization that Malcolm Hulk
Yeah.
wrote later, and maybe we should get into how he treated her there, because goddamn, I don't know what Barry Letson, the director, did, but they saved Liz here, because if that adaptation was how the original script was,
Well, it wouldn't have been fully because in the adaptation, basically, she's not a scientist.
What?
In the adaptation, he makes her just a personnel of UNIT, like an assistant. All the sciencey things she does by accident in the novelization.
Oh my god. No, she only screams like once in this episode, and it's a very reasonable surprise scream.
yeah.
I think that's much more, I feel, the filming crew and the actress actually making things work and making changes to the script at the time.
I know Terrence Dicks was not in control here, but I have to assume Terrence Dicks like stepped in a little bit.
Somewhat. And also Trevor Ray was very much on the ground. Trevor Ray was the assistant script editor. As much as anyone other than the director was in charge on this episode, it was him.
And most of the other people who early on see the Silurians go to fucking pieces.
Yeah.
She is way more measured than anybody else who sees them. She's just surprised, and then it kind of gently pushes her over, and we're meant to believe that it hit her.
One guy apparently was so freaked out he had a heart attack and died.
Yeah, I mean, like, everybody else freaks out way more. Like, the amount of screaming she does in this is fine. Frankly, if anybody was randomly standing behind me that close and I didn't know that they were there, I would probably make that sound.
Yeah, there's another trial that Liz Shaw faced behind the scenes that I think we should get into. Skirtgate.
She wears a cute outfit a couple times during this one.
She does. She wears a lot of mini skirts throughout this.
But that was the style back then. In fact, it was kind of a long mini skirt for the era.
Yeah, but you know how there's that scene where Liz Shaw goes down into the caves and they give her a jumpsuit to wear?
With no ascot?
Originally, they wanted to send her down in just the mini skirted outfit.
No.
So even before this, the actress had been asking why wouldn't Liz wear trousers at some point? Why was it always the skirts? And the costume designer, Christine Rawlings, kind of insisted on the skirts. And then the actress, this was one of the bigger productions she had been on, so she didn't know exactly how to handle things. So she just went along with what the costume designer said. When she got there, let me get the exact quote from Carolyn John. When I walked onto the set, John looked at me and asked, "You're not going down into the mines in that miniskirt, are you?" When I told him that they wouldn't let me dress any other way, John made a fuss for me, and they finally let me put on one of the extras' mining suits.
It should be noted here, John in this case is John Pertwee.
Yes.
Hey, good for him.
Yeah.
Wear a mini skirt upstairs when you're in the office. That's fine. They're perfectly comfortable, especially the loose ones that she wears. If you're going to run around in a freaking cave, you're going to want something on.
Yeah. The only issue I have is that the actress was clearly very uncomfortable with the outfit she was given. And it should be noted here, from what you've told me, Rawlings apparently was very bitter about having to work on a sci-fi show and was like trying as hard as she could to just get her usual contemporary stylings into the show.
And to be frank, I liked her outfit a lot in these particular ones. It's very much of its era, but it is contemporary and it's kind of fun. And it's nice to see a scientist woman who does dress like a fun person would, I guess.
The only other thing I will say in regards to skirts versus trousers is I don't have a full history on this, but I was listening to a discussion on feminism in the 70s in England for a different show that I watch, Infinity Train, which if you're listening, you should check out on HBO Max. It's a very good show. But there was a discussion there about how feminist movements in the 1970s in Britain were built very much on women wearing pants and dressing in more masculine styles to try and break away. So it's possible there's a lot to read into there, and no one, not the actress, not the costume designer, not the production team of any kind, has gotten into. But I do kind of wonder if there was maybe some subtext going on there that we, living in the modern day across the pond, would not have picked up on.
That is very possible. But again, like, I can't emphasize enough that everybody wore skirts that short.
Yes.
Like, I've talked to a lot of women who were around in that era, and my mom was just like, that's not even that short of a skirt. When you look at Star Trek, they were very short skirts.
In Star Trek, the skirts went above the underpants sometimes.
Yes, they did.
I do have Rawlings' justification for going into the cave in the miniskirt. She wanted to imply that Liz wouldn't have expected to go caving, so she wouldn't have packed anything suitable.
She could just borrow one from the miners.
They have the mining it. Yeah, it's around.
She's a skinny little person. It might be a little bit big on her, but she could roll up the sleeves and the trouser legs. It's fine. Is that Wednesday? No, it's Yeti.
That's Yeti.
Oh, hi, Yeti.
Hi, Yeti.
People at home, you can't see, but we are being joined by a furry friend.
He's so beautiful.
Yes, he
Aren't
is.
you a good kitty?
All right, I would like to begin our discussion of the supporting characters, of which we have a lot this time, actually. But I want to start with The Silurians. There are 3 that we know of, not by name. None of them get names, unfortunately. It's a lot like the Sensorites. I believe they are listed as Elder Silurian, Younger Silurian, and Scientist Silurian.
I just put Silurian leader, mean Silurian, and Fido. I skipped the scientist because no one really cares about him.
Yeah.
In the novelization, the elder is called Octel and the young one is called Morka.
I mean, whatever. The Silurian leader is a nice guy who is concerned about the humans existing on the planet, but can be reasoned with and convinced that we're intelligent. He doesn't want to genocide us, and then he's promptly murdered by another Silurian.
Yes.
And I just called him mean Silurian because he wants to kill all humans.
Also, he was apparently too tall for his skin, as his head did not seem to come all the way down.
He had some issues with that, but he wants the whole world to belong to the Silurians, even though they probably don't want all of it because a lot of it is going to be too cold.
I think to a certain extent, it's just he's too afraid of the humans to let them coexist.
Plus, we probably look like freaks to them, to be fair. There's also a scientist Silurian who becomes the mean Silurian's compatriot, mostly because he threatens him.
Yeah.
He's really not that important, nor does he really have any actual personality.
Well, his personality is that he is a scientist, and B, kind of okay with the humans, but isn't gonna fight for it.
Right.
But this is the exact dynamics we had with our 3 main Sensorites, where we had the elder who wanted to help out, the younger one who wanted to take over as leader and kill the humans, and the lackey who was being threatened into subservience.
Yeah, it's basically the Sensorites, but with grim darkness and genocide. There's also Fido, don't forget, the dinosaur pet of the Silurians.
Yes.
And he looks like a man in a Godzilla suit, and it's wonderful.
Zach, do you have the actual name of the dinosaur?
Shut up, it's Fido.
It's Fido.
Unless it's Yeti. Is it Yeti? He's so pretty.
Yeti is so not interested in the podcast.
He really is not.
He's just happy to be with Daddy.
He's so cute.
He's more of a Blake Sevens fan.
He wants us to go back to talking about Terry Nation.
Yeah.
The Silurian pet was called on set Bertram the Friendly Monster.
Okay, that's pretty awesome.
And they did actually have 2 uncredited visual effects assistants make, and one of them was in this big...
Yeah, it's Godzilla. I mean, it's just Godzilla.
Well, after they had done it, the director realized because they had done it with a blue screen, they could have just done a small model dinosaur and it would have had the same effect.
And been a lot cheaper.
And the dinosaur roar and the Silurians were all done by Peter Halliday.
I did notice that in the credits that all the Silurians had the same voice.
Yeah, although I think they pitch corrected on the younger one at least, because he did sound a bit higher than the others, which is kind of interesting.
I do also want to point out that Peter Halliday, he had done a lot of leading man roles on stage.
What was his name?
Peter Halliday.
Okay.
Not the type of person you would get to do monster work on Doctor Who, and they got him specifically to make them more characters and less just generic monsters.
Right.
And the reason they couldn't have the suit operator's voice is because they had wooden pegs in their mouth to operate the mouths of the Silurians.
Oh dear.
Also, they couldn't really see and they were sweating and cramped in there. That's why you mentioned the head wobbling. The heads were actually designed to come off easily in case there was an emergency or a claustrophobia attack.
That's fair.
Well, the fact that they had to do that tells me that some very interesting things have obviously previously happened on this production.
I will say a lot of sets even today will do the same thing.
Yeah.
Latex work is just, it's always going to suck.
Well, this wasn't latex. This was...
It looked like cloth to me, the outside of it.
molded rubber.
Molded rubber, okay.
What you're thinking of is the neck fringe, which was added later because otherwise...
You could see the seam, I'm sure.
Well, not even the seam, the difference between the helmet they were wearing and the costume.
I do want to get into the Silurians as both a concept and a design. The big difference between them and the Sensorites, I would argue, is the Sensorites Sensorites are in a space that humanity invaded personally. The Silurians are here on Earth with us, and we just didn't know they were there while we built up our society. And there is, I think, a really interesting dynamic with that, where both sides feel invaded.
Right.
Also, I do want to mention in the novelization, the Elder and the Doctor do have a conversation where the Elder talks about their massive domed cities that are waiting for them, and the Doctor does break to him that no record or any evidence of their civilization exists anymore.
Which does seem very unlikely.
Not necessarily based on how archaeological records work. Very little stuff gets fossilized.
Yeah, but you'd find remnants of the cities. Like, we have whomping Great Pyramids from God knows when back.
Yeah, but those are still within the scale of human existence. The Silurian period would be pre-Jurassic.
Oh.
Well, Silurian makes no sense. Eocenic doesn't either. Jurassic doesn't make sense. No time period makes sense.
You can't science at Doctor Who. I think if any episode has made that super clear, it is this one.
Yes, it is. There are so many things wrong. But I will say, regardless of where you put the Silurians, it is pre-extinction event.
Right.
So, like, this is before any possible civilization that we know of could have existed. So it is possible that whatever they built up there would be ground into dust.
It is still kind of weird that, like, we've never found a single skeleton ever.
Doctor Who.
Yeah.
I do want to just say I really like the design and I like how alien that they look.
They look like the Gill Man, Josh.
But they don't look at all human.
No.
I mostly want to say this to throw shade on the Moffat era. Take a shot. Because during the Moffat era, they bring back the Silurians, but the look that they give them is very much like humans, but scaly. Like, there are female Silurians that we see now, and they have breasts, and all the all of the Silurians have
lizard
humanoid
people don't need
fish.
boobs. That's ridiculous.
All of the Silurians have humanoid faces and human-like eyes and human-like hands.
Well, I'm sure that that's just to make them more expressive.
Yeah, almost certainly. But I do kind of wish that, like, they hadn't made so many concessions, because I feel like part of the thing that makes the Silurians work is that they look so different from humans, that their culture, their way of communicating, they communicate telepathically.
That is not clear in the episode at all.
No.
They seem to only use that thing to, like, try to murderize people and open doors.
Yeah, they have a light on their forehead glows and there's a woo.
A third eye, yeah. That was added by the director, Timothy Coombs. That was not in the original script.
Was there just a woo-woo noise before? You know what they looked like? The monsters from Horror on Party Beach from Mystery Science
But without
Theater.
the hot dogs.
But without the hot dogs in there, man.
100%.
Check our website. We'll post pictures of everything. Okay, I'm done gushing over the Silurians. We should probably move on to the actual human people.
Comb-over guy, the lead scientist of the facility. He is also an anti-vaxxer, and he doesn't believe in the Silurians.
Bureaucrat of the facility.
Yes, he gets the plague, and he dies yelling at people about how the plague is totally fake, you guys.
You shouldn't have to wear a mask. Ah!
Point. And it was
I buy it.
hauntingly on point and a little bit eerie.
I think my favorite part of that, though, is that not only does he start ranting about how there is no plague while he has the plague, he also says that all of this is just a conspiracy out to get him, which is one of those things that at the time I'm sure sounded ridiculous, but now we hear that all the fucking time.
This one got really real.
Yeah, it
It
really
did.
suddenly, it went from being this is ridiculous to literally things that I've heard on Facebook like yesterday.
Literally, the thing gets out because this one, like, higher up asshole can't stand quarantine and just breaks it.
No, they hadn't established
No,
quarantine.
that
when he
was
left.
not his fault.
He knew the disease existed. He was
Yes, but
there
nobody told
when it
him not to
happened.
go.
I don't care. He was there when it happened. He has a dizzy spell and he doesn't think, oh, I should check in with medical. He just fucking leaves.
That makes more sense in the novelization and also kind of in the original script, where even after Baker collapses, the only person who believes the doctor is Liz.
Well, see, and that doesn't work in this because we see the other guy's boils right away on his wrist.
It kind of makes them both just look like dumbasses. The whole plague storyline, in my opinion, is kind of a low point for this serial. Not because it's a bad idea, but because every step they take about it, from the science to their reaction to it, it just feels wrong. Except for anti-vaxxer guy.
Yeah, that kind of hit hard.
The rest of it, though, I find is just...
Yeah, like diseases don't usually move that fast. And if it did, like it's almost so fast that it can't be communicable enough. And like it has a 100% death rate that we see, which is very not realistic. I can't think of anything that has anything that high except maybe rabies.
They call it a bacteria at some point, which it clearly isn't.
Yeah, it very clearly is not, because we have antibiotics for that.
Previous things have retconned it to being a virus.
But that doesn't make sense either, because if it was a virus, you can't cure a virus. Once you have it, you just have it. So that's not a thing either.
If the number of people that we see caught it and died, and it broke out seemingly throughout all of London,
And to Paris.
Yeah.
like this would have been a world-changing event. And
Yep,
it's clearly
and apparently, yet they're able to cover this up somehow, which is absurd. And in
Yeah.
fact, they would have the same problems that we had with our recent pandemic. We would be choked with bodies, and they would have to do mass burials, and like there wouldn't be
Yeah.
anybody left to bury people because it's that contagious.
I kind of wish that they'd kept that, like the disease maybe is spreading throughout the base or something, and so it's a race against time to save the soldiers who are there and people working on the cure before it can get out.
Or it could just
Yeah.
be slower acting.
Yeah,
But like some of that's just hindsight too. Like
Yeah.
with the last year, we know about that.
They want the London shots. They want to kind of match the Auton attack.
except even the Auton attack seemed a lot smaller in scale than this. They went too far.
Yeah.
But we've only talked about 2 of the side characters, and there are a bunch.
Well, we have to talk about Martin Freeman.
Quinn.
Martin Freeman, another scientist who tries to use the Silurians to get scientific advances. Then he tries to hold one captive, and he is kind of killed by them, but actually he had a heart attack.
Wait, did he have the heart attack, or did the farmer have the heart attack?
The farmer had the heart attack.
I don't remember. I thought that he wasn't killed by them, but
It's unclear in the episode. In the novel, the young Silurian kills him.
oh, okay. Well, he also
Okay.
has a secretary, and after Martin Freeman dies, the secretary is like, "We got to kill all these Silurians, all of them."
It strikes me as abundantly clear that the secretary had a bizarre crush on Dr. Quinn.
I mean, they could have
Or-
just been close friends too. If somebody that I cared about and worked closely with died suddenly, I'd probably want like revenge on their murderers too. There's also Baker, a nutcase who wants to kill all the Silurians, and he's also patient 0 of the plague. He dies. There's the politician guy who spreads the plague to London. He dies.
Not a politician.
Whatever, bureaucrat. I don't care.
We could talk a bit more about Baker because he is cuckoo banana pants. He goes well off the deep end early on.
Yosemite Sam. That's his
Yeah.
whole characterization.
Kinda.
He's more trigger happy than Unit.
He starts declaring the doctor a traitor because he at some point talks to a Silurian.
Which is hilarious because, like, he's not even a human, but, like, he doesn't know that, obviously.
Yeah, I do think we should talk about the secretary in the book because, again, Malcolm Hulk decided to add some details to her.
Does this guy have issues with women?
He seems to have some issues with women.
Uh,
I remember the big bit about getting married.
Yeah, a direct quote from the book. In her heart, Miss Dawson feared the moment when people would stop asking, "Why don't you get married?" and replace it with the dreaded, "Why didn't you get married?"
From what I understand, that is her main motivation in the story, or at the very least, her main characteristic.
wow. Well, that didn't come through at all in the show.
No.
In the show, she mostly just seemed to like have a very misplaced trust in Dr. Quinn.
Yeah, and she tries to drag him back from his stupid multiple times, and she obviously cares about him, but it's not clear whether that's just as a colleague or whatever.
Also, Quinn is a lot less likable in the novelization. He is much more of a cold jerk.
It's hard because, like, he has a very Martin Freeman-y aura. He's very likable, and the character is not.
Yeah, to a certain extent, a part of it is the actor himself conveys a very charming personality.
Yeah.
Because at least least to me, it was surprising when like he gets the Silurian. He's like, I'm gonna lock it in my basement and torture it until it gives me its secrets.
Yeah, that was like, whoa, okay.
I thought you were kind of looking to be their friend. I didn't know you had that in you. Okay.
Plus, like, dude, call the freaking doctor. Like, it's wounded. It was bleeding before. You knew that. Like, you might want to get a doctor? Good Lord.
A quote of Quinn's from the novel and the interaction between him and Miss Dawson. First line is Miss Dawson. Then keeping this to yourself is she couldn't think of a word strong enough is criminal. His response is, oh no, I don't think so. Because you see, I shall kill them first after I found out all that I want to know.
Murder's not a crime.
Shit, dude.
Not like kidnapping.
Oh my god. Well, I know who the original bad guy was supposed to be now, I guess.
Oh my god. Apparently, this is the very murdery serial.
Why is everyone psychotic? I mean, I get that they don't look like human beings, but Jesus.
Yeah? Do we want to talk a little bit more about Bessie?
I love Bessie. What kind of a car is she, and why did they go with that? Did they just go with yellow because it looks good on screen? Because it does look good on screen.
They went with yellow because that was the default. Basically, this company, a small firm in Dorset, did a special run of these kits that were of a classic type car that you could fit onto the chassis and engine of a Ford Popular.
Wait, this is not an old vintage car?
No, this is a kit put onto a 1970s modern car. For the Ford engine, the chassis, and the kit, it cost them total 500 pounds.
Jesus Christ.
Wow.
Even for the time, that's really damn good.
Yeah, but then you have to put it.
Yeah, they had to put it together, and they did have to modify it throughout the series. The kit was only available for like a year.
It's adorable.
The other big issue is if you notice the license plate said who won, that license plate was taken. So
No!
the actual license plate for the vehicle was MTR5, and they got a fake plate and they got permission from the ministries to drive it with illegal plates.
Oh, that's cool. See, everybody loves this show, and yet the BBC wants to murder it in its cradle.
I know. I don't know.
This series actually kind of, well, saved it for now.
At the end of every season, I imagine the BBC administrators came down and said, all right, nice work, everyone. Get some sleep. I'll likely kill you in the morning.
Well, the discussion was kind of around, okay, yes, it's good, but is it too scary for children? They all had stories about their kids and kids they knew hiding behind cushions. It wasn't quite appropriate for the under fives.
No, you shouldn't be 5 years old and watching this. Jesus Christmas.
With the Pertwee era, it was shifting more towards family and adult. But then some of them decided, well, maybe it's good and a couple of nightmares are okay for kids.
Or just make them watch it when they're 8 or older.
Yeah. In my experience, kids like to be scared.
Like, kids remember watching Doctor Who from behind the cushions.
It reminds me of Hotel California, though, this show. Like, they stabbed it with their steely knives, but they just couldn't kill the beast.
It took 26 years, and even then it came back.
Yep, fuck you guys.
It's the fucking Rasputin of shows. So the premise of this serial is that the Silurians are a prehistoric race that was forced underground. But why were they forced underground? Zach, would you care to explain in universe what the Silurian says?
Because it's dumb.
They say that a large object was approaching, so they froze themselves underground to wait out the impact.
No, they said a planet was
They
approaching.
said a planet.
Which, as it turns out, was the moon.
Yes,
Or at least that's what the doctor says.
because Malcolm Hulk had written an episode for the Avengers, not the Avengers anyone here is thinking of.
On the contrary, I am thinking of a woman in black leather. So,
Yeah.
yeah, the adventures
Okay.
that I am thinking
Yes.
of.
Not a redhead, though.
No, Emma Peel is who I'm thinking of.
An episode called The White Dwarf in 1963, which has a wandering small body approaching modern day Earth, and the same result results are anticipated. So he basically stole from himself.
Not the first time. We already mentioned how Robert Holmes did that for Spearhead from Space.
Yes, but I do want to say that while the science now is nonsense, at the time it would have been thought of as common.
Fair enough. There's a lot of scientific bullshit in this. I don't want to get into like all of the problems with it, but like that's not how cyclotrons work. That's absolutely not how nuclear reactors work.
I do want to say that Carolyn John, when she first signed up, read up on a lot of science, she did become disappointed when she realized most of the science in the show was complete garbage.
Yeah, we covered that a little bit in Spearhead as well. The only other thing I want to bring up regarding setting that I can think of is we have the introduction of the third Doctor's catchphrase, reverse the polarity of the neutron flow, which...
That's not a thing either. Neutrons
Yeah,
are... Oh
no.
my god.
Malcolm Hulke apparently wrote like reverse the polarity of something else, and the Doctor said it that way, and Hulke was very upset, especially that John Pertwee kept using it, mostly because Pertwee could just remember it.
He couldn't remember the Doctor's technobabble that well, so he remembered this phrase.
And would just throw it in to random technobabble.
He could sing it. That's why he remembered it. He put it to a tune that he knew.
A Gilbert and Sullivan tune.
I hope he sings this at some point. Sure, dude, whatever. That goes along with a cyclotron being in the same area as a nuclear reactor and like all of the other random... The Silurian area of the caves looks really nice, actually.
That is true.
It's very understated. There's these green slabs of stone, and it's made... What I liked about it is kind of what I liked about the Daleks city. It's not in a proportion that humans would create. And it turns out that this is because of Fido or Bertram.
Yeah.
Like, it's Godzilla and it's supposed to be big, even though it's clearly just a man in a suit.
You know, we keep comparing it to Godzilla, but having seen the original Godzilla, this suit is way worse.
It is way worse, but it's adorable worse.
Yeah, it is. Other reason the Silurians are one of my favorite monsters, they have pet dinosaurs. That's just
They
cool.
do. Please tell me that there are action figures of these.
No.
There are action figures of the Silurians.
Also, maybe there's now, but they never did an action figure of Bessie either.
Dude, any of these people have children?
Kari, don't you remember the BBC was trying to kill this show? They weren't going to make toys for it.
Okay, but don't you want to make like bags and bags of money and kill the show?
In the modern Who, they did a Silurian adjacent episode called Dinosaurs on a Spaceship, where there are dinosaurs on a spaceship. They may have action figures of those dinosaurs.
I get it.
I'm sorry. I'm baffled. I'm baffled.
If we're willing to move on to production, there's one element that we have not yet discussed about the show at all that we all noticed: the music.
Oh dear.
What the hell was going on there?
Yes, and you speak for all of us. Sometimes the super happy fun times clown music is appropriate, but most of the time it is not.
For those of you who have never seen the serial, imagine taking as many wacky old style horns as possible, putting them in a hollowed out crate and just throwing it down a flight of stairs.
No, because the majority of the music is actually a xylophone or a bell-like instrument.
That is
played
true.
with mallets, and it's just like wacky fun time circus music.
And what sounds like a kazoo.
Yeah, it does sound like a kazoo. I think there's some elements of like a clarinet in there as well. Why did they think this music was appropriate, and what the hell even is it?
A little background. The guy who did the music, Kerry Blayton. I'll get into what he's most well known for first, because it's not this. He did a song in the 60s that then became the thing for a TV show in the 90s, Bananas in Pajamas.
Oh, I know Bananas in Pajamas. I had VHS tapes of Bananas in Pajamas.
So he does play music for toddlers.
Bananas in Pajamas are
We get it, Josh. You're young.
I had never heard of this show either. Anyway.
Oh, I had. They're giant bananas. That's literally what they are.
Yeah, they're giant
they're wearing
bananas.
Blue and
Very-
white striped pajamas, if I recall correctly.
Yep, you are recalling
And
correctly.
I was way too old to watch it, but I pop culture, so.
Do you want to know what he was going for first or what the instruments were?
What was he going for?
So there are 5 kinds of music in the score.
Overall, for the score, what was he going for?
He wanted to evoke an ancient sound.
Because xylophones are ancient, I guess.
Did not succeed.
So he mainly used medieval instruments.
Like a fucking xylophone?
I assume he went ancient sounding because the Silurians are prehistoric, right?
Yes.
Okay. He wanted to evoke an ancient sound appropriate to Silurian culture by going to the medieval era. Like, imagine you're making a movie set in colonial America. And so in order to capture the feeling of that period, you need an old style sound. Like, we'll use music from the 1980s. That's basically what we're doing here.
This isn't even close to what medieval music sounds like or old
No.
music at all. I have
No.
studied some music, not a ton, but enough to know that this is not exactly contrapuntal plain chant.
So what are these instruments?
If you're going to tell me that's a fucking sack butt, I am going to climb through the screen and jam my fist right down your throat.
A what?
A sack
didn't-
butt. Look, it's an
No.
instrument. Never mind.
Yeah.
Justin, you are of the old world. What is a sack butt?
I don't know. Ever since you brought up the Avengers, I'm just thinking of the terrible Night movie.
Oh,
I-
oh.
There was a scene in there in which Sean Connery, who was the villain, was meeting with his evil council, and they're all wearing multicolored teddy bear
Teddy
suits. I've
bears.
just been thinking-
Why?
I have just been thinking about that for the past
That's
half hour,
probably not the worst. Oh,
so I have nothing to contribute here.
tell me what that is.
It was a crumhorn, the whole family of crumhorns.
Okay, that I can buy.
Carrie Blyton was so excited when he figured out the noise for the Silurians, he called the director, Timothy Coombs, up at midnight and played a crumhorn at him in the middle of the night.
And he still had a job the next day? Okay, but it's not all fucking crumhorns. What is the
No.
percussive instrument that sounds like a bell being struck?
Glockenspiel and prepared piano.
Glockenspiel. Okay.
Again, a great medieval instrument, the glockenspiel.
No.
No. Also, some people in production were not happy with how the music turned out. They felt it sounded a touch silly.
Don't say.
Because they had ears.
Some of them, though, loved it and thought it was amazing.
I'm not even like the music is great. The music is not bad at all. The music is also totally inappropriate for what is going on.
I'm gonna say it's bad.
No, I mean it would be fine for a like okay, kittens playing.
This will be linked in the notes. One of the pages will have links to selections of the music, and you can hear how inappropriate to the descriptions each bit is.
It's
for you-
incredibly inappropriate.
I love also, you showed me the website earlier, and it's just bananas all over the place. He is very
Yeah,
proud.
this is the guy's own website I got this
Well,
from.
and that's a great fit for him. He should be writing songs for 4-year-olds.
Also, he did do the music for 2 more
Oh,
serials.
God. Why don't I drink?
Please tell me someone wrestles the glockenspiel away from him.
No, keep the Glock. That's not the problem. The rest of it's the problem.
The crumhorns that sounded like a kazoo.
Well, are there any other production questions we want to dig into here?
Where did they get the multicolored teddy bear costume?
We're not talking about the Avengers movie.
Oh, all right. Well, no. Then no, none of them.
They're just in a closet in the TARDIS next to that outfit the Master grabbed.
Yeah, no kidding.
But no, not about this particular production.
All right.
That's it. That's all I've got. I'm in too much pain on the crumhorns, I think.
I will mention those explosions at the end did set that field on fire, and they hadn't cleared it with the local fire department. And
Oh,
from what it sounds like,
no.
all the rest of the crew just ran, leaving Trevor Ray, the assistant script editor, to try and explain to the fire department when they arrived.
They should have left the composer out there.
What? Are they the little rascals?
Wow.
I love the idea of like the field catches on fire and everyone's like, scatter!
We're gonna get in trouble. We're gonna get a whooping.
So yeah, I think we've covered.
Oh, the title.
Right. Yeah. So as you may have noticed, the title cards all read Doctor Who and the Silurians. That is a typo.
No, it's not a typo. This is a problem that had been happening since the 60s. The production, the people higher up never wanted to call him Doctor Who, but all internal memos up to this point all had Doctor Who and for every episode as Doctor Who, and the writers kept calling him Doctor Who. And it kind of came to a head here where, as I said, there was no producer and just the director who had never directed Doctor Who before. So by the time a producer looked at it, the intro slides were already made with that title. So from then on, all internal memos never said Doctor Who and the again.
I don't know why they had that in the first place. Why would you have Doctor Who and at the head of all your memos? That makes no sense.
I mean, Friends did it with the one with the blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, but that was the actual titles. This is apparently just like when we're talking to each other back and forth, we're going to say the title of the episode, but open it with Doctor Who and.
Well, this was after the movie came out.
They got to ride that movie hype.
All right, I think from here we should move on to the scores where we dilute our complicated, rambling, and maybe even contradictory opinions into a score from 1 to 4 Daleks. Who wants to go first?
I give it a 3. I still like this Doctor a lot.
All right.
I thought it was a good story. I mean, I had some issues, obviously,
Yeah.
but it was an interesting story that was kind of interestingly solved.
Yeah,
I did like it, and I like dinosaurs. So
dinosaurs are cool.
If we're gonna go with the proviso that I can headcanon that he was actually just sealing off the cave and not murdering all of the Silurians, I would give it a 3 Daleks as
All right.
well.
to be fair, he does genuinely say that they're sealing them all.
It's only the doctor
Right.
who says that they murdered everybody.
Right. So hopefully that's correct. Like I said, I'll give it a 3. If it's actually genocide, 0, because that would
Yeah,
suck.
no genocide.
It's unfair to let the novelization color my decision, but this whole scoring is unfair.
It's all arbitrary.
So-
Yeah.
You know.
It's all bullshit.
I can't go higher than 2.
2. Okay. I have some issues. I don't like the virus subplot very much at all.
That was kind of dumb. I'm with you there.
No.
Not well
no.
handled.
Obviously, some of the side characters didn't get fleshed out as well as they should have. I'm going to actually give it 3.5 Daleks. I can't call it perfect. It's got some clear flaws, but the stuff I like about it, I really like about it.
I'll just add one more kind of tidbit that's unrelated to the episode, but something kind of fascinating I discovered. In 1969, Nicholas Courtney, who played the Brigadier, was directed in a stage production by Ian McKellen.
Of what?
The Prime of Miss Jean Brodie.
Oh, cool.
That's cool. Anyway, so
Also, another fun fact was that just for Blake 7 fans, Paul Darrow was in the serial briefly
Yes.
as a unit guy who dies.
One of the interchangeable.
Yeah, he was just one of the soldiers. He wasn't
All right.
important. He died.
We
Yeah.
have one unit captain who dies every
it's the
serial
the
this
equivalent
season.
of a red shirt. Anyway, we would like to thank you all for listening. Remember to like, subscribe, and hit the bell on YouTube. Follow us on Buzzsprout and download us from there. We got Facebooks, we got Twitters. The links are all down below. And now we've also got a website. Kari, what can they find on the website?
You can find all of the memes that we post on Facebook. So if you want to go back and rob our memes, go ahead, as well as episode notes that I've written for each one and the episodes themselves. So if you don't want to, scroll back through things, you can find it
Also,
all
you'll
there.
find some articles that Zach has written, mostly compiling research materials that we use in each episode. So if you're curious in the backstory and where we get stuff like that, feel free to check that out.
It's a fun read. A lot of it is his primary sources.
Yeah.
They're pretty great.
This has been the Silurians. Next time, we go back to the Hartnell era.
Yay!
And more than that, we go back to the Daleks as we do the Dalek invasion of Earth.
Ooh.
I wonder what happens in that.
They don't invade Earth, funny,
Yeah.
That's a spoiler. Jeez. thanks.
Ruined. You've just ruined it.
Anyway, until next time, remember to feed your TARDIS.
Feed the crumb horns to the
Feed
TARDIS.
the crumb horns to the TARDIS.
Don't call anyone at midnight and play a crumb horn at them.
Yeah. No one wants to hear that.
And don't genocide anybody. It's not cool.
And don't light lawns on fire and then run away.
Don't do a lot of things. Remember, kids, just say no
To things.
pretty much everything.
Yeah.
But you've got to have them. It's for your own good.
Rubbish. Why should I waste my time having useless injections against an imaginary epidemic